Today I'll be talking about typecasting, which you also helped me clarify the topic and the danger of the single story about our students. I am an engineer and also a teacher. I grew up in a country, Nigeria, where education is highly valued. But at the same time, we traverse a lot of dangerous terrain to actually obtain that education in that country. Many of you must have seen what is going on with Boko Haram in my country and the kidnapping of 274 students from their school, wanting them not to go to school, thereby the hashtag Bring Our Girls Back has been making the rounds. But having said that, so I grew up in this country, in Nigeria, where there's very few social services to support the poor. But I also want to let you know that I grew up really poor, and at the same time grew up with a mom that only had a standard 5 education because girls are not supposed to go to school so much during their time. But yet, today I can proudly say I have 2 masters. Growing up a poor young boy and with a parent that is not highly educated. I said this because it tends to be the criteria that we see our students, or the category of students we have tend to fit my person. So, I titled this talk, Typecasting, Danger of the Single Story. A title that I actually borrowed from a award-winning author, Ngozi Adichie, the writer of the Half of the Yellow Sun. Many of our colleagues tend to see our students in a single story, a single light. You see the story about our students being poor, or their parents not being highly educated, or lack of role models among them. We also see our students as students that grow up in a crime-filled environment, such as the city of Compton. And many of us have that notion that that is the case, and our students are probably one of those people that is made by society. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to blame anybody, but I also fall into that category. In the sense that my second year as a teacher in this school, I lost a check of $530. I signed the check already, but I've not made it out to anybody. I intended to make it out to a company that I don't know their name, but my brother was coming to pick up the check. But I lost it. When it got here, I started looking for the check. I couldn't find it. And you know what came to my mind first? Wow, these kids are going to cash that check. Wow. These kids don't know anything about civics. They don't have respect for other people's property. They are cashing my check. So I called my bank right away. Did anybody try to cash the check? They said, not yet. Can you please cancel it? By the way, it cost me $25 to cancel the check. And I was looking forward to them calling me to state that, oh, somebody tried to cash it, this is the name on it, and so on and so forth. But you know, the following day, Mr. Avila, the then principal, came into my classroom to hand over the check to me and said the student found this during lunch and brought it to me. And I was overwhelmed with shame because I had fallen into that prey of typecasting our students and considering them criminals. And the single story that the media has fed to me, that content is full of crime. Some of my colleagues have talked about how the students do not have respect for their property and so on and so forth. So I had that single story in mind, going in that this is what my case will be. Having said that, we cannot talk about the single story without talking about influence and power. I say this in the sense that when we look at the propagandas that stick, the people that have the more power tend to be the one that propagates it. So I will take for example, we talk about the crime in Iraq, the issue of Saddam Hussein, and our media was able to sell it to us that Saddam is bad, Iraq is terrible, but Iraq do not have the same thing to turn around and say this is America, this is what it looks like, and they could have win that propaganda war. America had the influence. We talk about issue of immigration today too. We talk about the same thing. Oh, these people are coming to fleece our economy, they're jumping through the border, we have to build these fences to stop them. But we're not saying the other side of it, the benefit we get from the immigrants being here or the companies that we're establishing in Mexico and other places. I say this because we, the teachers, are the one in influence, we're the one with the power here. The story we tell about our students tend to stick. The other way around doesn't seem to be the situation. The students do not have the influence, do not have the power to state that this is what the situation is, what we do. Let's turn this around about this issue of single story. When we view our students that way, we do not put ourselves in their shoes. So now let's look at what has happened in recent time between some of us with the superintendent and the curriculum director, Dr. Davis. Some of us felt very disrespected when he walked into some of our classes without acknowledgement, walked with his pompousness and walked out of your classes without even acknowledging you or stating otherwise. Or some of us that were in meetings with Dr. Davis constantly on his phone when we were having important meetings. We felt really disrespected. We felt unvalued, not valued. And then when you begin to ask questions, it begins to come back to me that they felt that we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, that we're not the best of teachers for our students. And they had a single story about the teachers in content. So therefore, the respect is diminished. And because of that, it makes it, I don't know about others, but it makes it difficult for me to work closely and respectfully with Dr. Davis. So if that is how I felt, and maybe some of you felt the same way, imagine what our students feel if all they know about them is the single story of life of crime. Parents are not highly educated. Parents are poor. And we begin to believe that, and begin to believe that this student cannot be saved. But what about, let's turn around that story about parents being poor, the parents being poorly educated, to the issue about, wow, did the parents sacrifice their culture, sacrifice their family, their household, to come to this country to give their children a different opportunity? Or can we also look at it as those parents wake their kids up when they were 6 and start taking them to kindergarten, preschool, first grade, second grade, consistently? Because the only reason they made it here is because they've gone through those stages. Can we also look at the story from a different perspective and say, okay, you know what? These parents traverse gang-ridden environments, prostitution in some of their corners, drugs in some of their corners, and bring their kids to the school right here for us to make them a better individuals. Wouldn't our story and the way we view the student look able to different than assuming that every one of them, or most of them, are poor, or their parents are poor, or their parents are not going to influence upon their life? Yes, there might be a law that kids have to go to school, but the parents will have to be part of it too, for them to be able to come to school. So I will say this. Can we change around our story about our own students? That is not about their wealth, neither is it about the parent education, but about us. That the student's failure is our failure. For example, you go to your doctor and he's lounging around, and you came in for a checkup, I was like, you know what? I sent you last week. I don't want to see you right now. Would you go back? Or you went to the best restaurant you supposedly. The waiters are rude. The food was bad. The managers will not take your complaints. Would that be your choice restaurant the next time? Or you want to buy a house. There were choices of two realtors. The one that told you, you know what, you can't afford this, so why are you even looking? Or the one that said, you know what, I will work with you, I will try and get you what fits your need. And is very enthusiastic about you as a client. Who would you choose? Or, God forbid, you have a law case. Who would you want to go to court with? The totally dressed lawyer or the sharp dressed lawyer? Who do you think will represent you the better? I know some people are fan of Dr. House, but Dr. House will not have been my doctor. He might be the most brilliant doctor, but you have to present something beyond what I see. So, if we want to make it different, if we want to change the story, let's shine the light upon ourselves. Let's create an excitement within our classrooms. Let's create an excitement about us. Let's create an excitement about the subjects we teach. And the kids will also be excited about it. We as teachers, we have the power to bring dignity and break kids. And we also have the power to make them. We can waste minds, at the same time, we can build minds. Yeah. Okay, to see a training that happens to be one wonderful student that in 9th grade, I could see the potentials, but he doesn't speak a lot of English. But he has an older brother and a younger brother that were involved in gangs. He constantly refused to go hang out during lunch in 9th grade because of potential of the gangbangers that wanted to initiate him. He spent a lot of time in the classroom very quiet, but the more I got to talk to him, the more I got to know him, he began to open up, telling me the reason why he doesn't spend a lot of time outside during lunch. But because of mentorship of teachers like me and other teachers, became our valedictorian. Or is it Janet de la Cruz that I'm going to talk about? Quiet student, wasn't sure of her career path. Also graduated valedictorian, by the way. Today in UCLA. Guess what career she chose? Math teacher. Was it Joanna Granados that my friend talked about the last time? The student that came into Dominguez High School with a lot of emotional distress because of violent death of my father. But I'm getting to know her even more and introducing her to my very good friend, Julie Guerrero, the mentor. Became a kid millennial student. Is it Daisy Service? Who potentially will be our valedictorian this year too. A student that desire to fail a class just to be able to come to summer school for breakfast and lunch. But with my friend again, Julie Guerrero, food was provided during summer breaks for her. And today, she's ranking #1 in her school. There's so many more stories to talk about. But it starts with changing the single story. The single stories are not false. They are true. But do you want to look at just one side of the story? Or do you want to look at the holistic person? Do you want to see the crime part? Or do you want to see the hardworking part of this person? Do you want to see the poor part? Or do you want to see the potential of making what of this person? Our parents will only be involved in our schools based on we changing the single stories. Some parents come to visit me on the condition based because their kids have talked about me at home. And they felt that I'm not threatening for them to come to classroom. But some of us, our colleagues, our kids are not relating that way with them. And the only story they have about us, the parents too, is that single story that the teachers don't care. So how do we turn this around? I believe the way for us to turn it around is to show excitement and to be excited about